Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live stream for March. I'm Nicholas with the Port St. Lucie Business Club. Today, I am joined by Eddie Arguelles, and we're going to be talking about video marketing. So before we get started, let's just make sure that everything is working. If you joined us for our last live stream last month, you know we had some technical difficulties. I think everything should be good now. So let's just take a quick look over at Facebook, make sure things are working. And it looks like we are broadcasting. Awesome. If there
Nice.
is anyone in the chat, go ahead and give us either a thumbs up or a hello. Let us know where you're calling in from. I know we have a lot of local folks here in the Treasure Coast, but we might have some folks outside of the Treasure Coast as well. Danny, thank you for joining. Awesome. So it looks like we are good. We've already are making progress since our last live stream, since we are broadcasting. We are here. Awesome. Cool. So this is going to be a good one. And of course, this is recorded. So if anyone's going to miss the live stream, hey, Daryl, thank you for joining us. It will be recorded using the same link that you're viewing this on right now. You'll be able to see the recording later on both Facebook Live and on YouTube Live. So as I was saying, today we are diving into video marketing. We're going to make it interactive. We want to answer your questions. So wherever you are in your video marketing journey, your content creation journey, we want to give you some tactics and some tips that you can walk away from this live stream with some things that you can start implementing. If you're not familiar with the Port St. Lucie Business Club, let me tell you quickly about it. We are a vibrant community of almost 3,000 members here in the Treasure Coast in Florida. And our goal is to connect you, to support you, and to inspire you as business owners to become more involved in the community and also to connect with each other. And pretty much everything that we do is free of charge. Sometimes we'll have like a $10 charge on our events, but the group is free to join. So if you're not already in our group, make sure to join our free Facebook group. We'll put the URL in the comments shortly, or you can just search on Facebook for Port St. Lucie Business Club. So with that, let's get to the topic and to our guest of the hour. So we are diving into video marketing, as I mentioned, and we're going to cover a whole wide range of things, from what platforms you should be on to who your audience is, all that good stuff. So let me introduce our speaker and our guest, Eddie Arguelles. He is not just a master of video storytelling, he's a testament to the power of video. And you're going to hear that as he explains his story and how powerful video can be in helping you launch your brand or improve your brand. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Eddie Arguelles. Eddie, thank you for joining me on the live stream. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Nicholas. Appreciate it, buddy.
Glad you're here. This is a topic that we've wanted to cover for a long time. And when I saw you and what you're doing with video and Florida Podcast Studio and everything you're doing, I knew this was going to be a great opportunity for us to pick your brain and ask some questions. So can you start by just telling a little bit more about who you are and your background?
Yeah, so I started my real estate career about 20 years ago, 21 years ago now in Chicago, which is where I was born and raised. So about half of my career in real estate, actually just shy of half. And then I moved my family to Florida and continued as a real estate broker. I've opened up my own brokerages, hired and trained teams, and of course, sold real estate myself. So I've enjoyed a lot of the hats inside of real estate. And one of the things that I gravitated to, obviously, are marketing strategies. That's never been out of style. It's always been incredibly important to how do we connect with people to let them know about our service, our offerings, our products, the charity you're trying to bring attention to, whatever it may be. You have to garner attention first. And so, you know, there's obviously so many ways, especially inside of real estate. If there's any realtors on the call, you'll understand that there's a lot of shiny objects out there that are trying to get your 1995 every single month to sell you something and hopefully build your business. But what I really leaned in on and started to experiment as an amateur with no with no video background at all was video. And so I saw it coming up, and I realized that it was something that I actually made an investment in with my brokerage. We hired a team and started to really have professional equipment come through and things like that. But that was obviously with a advertising spend that we were able to afford. But it allowed me then to break it down for easy consumption and easy execution by the agents that I was serving. And so, then we started from a much more of a granular level. And video has just been the foundation for my success in real estate and really in sales, period.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's incredible to see so many people be able to transform their businesses and help others transform their businesses through video. And a lot of times we think it's one of those things that we aspire to do, like, oh, someday we're going to start doing some video marketing and do content, but we never actually get there. But you know, it's easier than we think to start, and hopefully that's something we're going to dig into. Before we get into the nitty gritties of the tactics and the tools and platforms and all this stuff, maybe expand on why you think, or well, why video matters. Like, why is this even important? Why should business owners be concerned about video marketing and content creation?
Well, this one's super easy because you don't even need me to tell you how important and how far-reaching video content is. I mean, we consume it on a daily level. I say everyone, but of course, the vast majority of the population does. The minute a commercial comes on the TV, what do? You grab your phone. You're not looking at the commercial. You grab your phone and you swipe through. What's my latest feed? What's my Instagram? What's my TikTok? When we're sitting on the toilet, let's be honest here. I mean, it's everywhere. Before we
Who
close
can
our eyes and
relate?
go to sleep.
Give us a yes in the
Yeah,
comments if
please
if
come
you can
on
relate
now.
to that.
It's the truth. And before we go to bed, we look at it one more time. It's there's positive and there's negatives, of course, because it's designed to keep you on the platforms. And so what this is really about is about leveraging what these platforms are trying to provide for us, right, for free, which is an audience and an opportunity for you to build an audience and let that audience know about what you do. And the algorithms, a lot of people are familiar with that term, they're designed to keep you on the platform.
Yeah.
So if you are engaged with something, they're going to continue to feed you that something because you're interested in it,
Mhm.
regardless of what it is. And so, developing the skill of, putting yourself out there and communicating to your target audience, whoever it may be, again, depending on your business. And I know hopefully we'll get a little time at the end to maybe ask questions of the audience and see what kind of businesses they're in. So I can lend, a couple of tips specifically for them, because obviously there's some nuances there.
Mhm.
But the answer to your question is video is everywhere. It's not going anywhere. We consume it at a high rate. And I firmly believe that there's still a lot of room for good content creators. And I use the word good because this is your time to start and continue to develop and hone that skill. Because as things like AI come on board and things like that, they start to just fill the pipeline, if you will, of video content with more and more. It's going to be even more important for you to be better at it, to reach your audience. And I would say, and we'll go into this here in a minute, determining who your audience is
Yeah.
and who they are, right? And so I'm sure we'll probably tap into that, but that's really why it's just video is not a secret. It's
Yeah.
out
Not
there,
anymore.
and not anymore. And what are we
Not
doing
anymore.
right now?
Right. I mean, yeah, this is only possible because of the power of video marketing, content creation, and live streaming. So this is a testament to the power that it works. On the note of personalizing this, I would love if anyone in the comments can add what you do, what field you're in. I know we have Daryl, he's a notary. We have Danny, he's a financial advisor. Jill works in the nonprofit space. But yeah, everyone just chime in. Let us know what field you're in so that we can try to personalize this as much as possible. And thank you to everyone who's joining. I see Lisa has joined and Rafa has joined and Albert has joined. Thank you so much for joining, and for anyone watching the recording later on. So so we talked about why video matters. I think we're all clear on the fact that video is an important thing. Before we get into the technicals, there's one term I would love for you to define. We talk a lot about short form and long form content. I know I've used those terms a lot, but I never really stopped to define it. And I realized that not everyone's a marketer who knows all these technical terms. What is short form versus long form video? How should we think about the difference between those two things?
So this is definitely going to lean into something we'll talk about here in a bit, which is the platform specific, right? Where are you planning on sharing and presenting this video content, right? That's going to be one of the questions you're going to ask yourself, and that will help determine what type of content might be best suited, not only in its format, which is a question you're asking, but also in its content. What are we saying, and how are we saying it? But very specifically, the long form content is typically the horizontal style format, which is more like a YouTube style and a lot of Facebook too. And then when we're talking about short form, we're usually talking about there's a little bit of nuance between the platforms, but typically under 90 or under 60 seconds of what is called vertical, right? Which is the
Mhm.
way it natively sits on your phone and the way a lot of people just kind of consume
Mhm.
a lot of quick content, right? And so that's typically the short form content. And the way I like to think of those two is they're really partners. It's not really one is better than the other. I really see the short form content as to coin a phrase that Gary Vee uses, is a gateway drug. It's the gateway drug into the long form, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to make them aware of you by having them consume the short form content. They're like, that's an interesting concept. And you typically short form content, not always, but I would say a good portion is excerpts from long form content.
Yep.
And so they're great little teasers as to what the long form video might be about. And so they serve really well that way. But also, the short form vertical format does, when it's executed well with a strong, now we're getting a little more technical, a strong hook, a strong story, and a call to action at the end. Those are basically the three pieces of a good video content, whether it's long or short, but certainly more important when it's short, because people's attention span is so short.
It is.
That if they don't hook you right away with some action, a statement, something that's incredibly interesting, we just swipe away.
Yeah, a lot of people will say that's the most important part of a video at the beginning. And I see people make this mistake so many times. I believe there's even a phrase for it called the millennial pause, where they'll start the video and it'll be just this like 2 seconds of silence, or even 1 second. And that's too much these days with short form, because people will scroll right by. So what is a hook exactly?
So the hook is the actual first 2 or 3 seconds. It's really the first thing you say, and it has to be a statement of impact, or a question, or of a challenge, or of something that people can relate to, that immediately engages them to continue to watch. So one of the reasons why a video is going to be successful or not is how the viewer engages with it, and that's measured by how long. Typically, there's several metrics, but one of them is how long they stay on the piece of content, right? So if it's a 60-second video, or a 30-second, regardless of what it is, the longer the viewer stays on, excuse me, without swiping away, the more the platform, the algorithm says, hey, this is a good piece of content. People are watching it. They're not just seeing it and swiping away immediately. They're actually consuming the content. So the more people are consuming it, the more it's going to present it to other people, which then leads to virality, right? When we hear about when a video goes viral, is because it's just hitting a lot of people and everyone's resonating with it, but more importantly, they're watching it.
They're watching. Yeah. I want to look over at the comments and see what we have here. Also, if anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the comments anytime. We'll try to get to them during the presentation. And if not, we'll come back at the end if there's time, and we'll revisit the comments for questions. But yeah, feel free to ask away. It looks like Rafa is a business technology consultant. Daryl's a mobile notary, mobile and a remote online notary. Danny's a financial planner. Corinda is a travel advisor. Jill works with One Hope Wine. Tony is with I host meet and greets for single Christians, and Jane is in real estate. So yeah, we have a diverse mix of different businesses, but hopefully that helps us and when we're thinking of examples to share. There's a lot of different industries represented here. So I know we got really technical really fast a minute ago. Let's zoom back out and look at just how should people think about their audience. That's something that's really important. Like, you need to figure out, who you want to talk to first before you start creating content. So yeah, tell us, what are your thoughts on that?
So you notice that we haven't even talked about the basics of the shooting video, right? We haven't even gotten there yet. Why? Because we have to do so much thinking and planning ahead of time. And of course, as these steps become faster and you become sharper at them as you continue to practice the craft. But it's incredibly important to determine who it is you're speaking to, who you're trying to impact. And again, I mentioned it earlier in terms of the amount of content that is out there right now, and the importance of really zeroing in. One of the things that I, just as a side note, one of the things I always, when I was training real estate agents, they'd come on board, and they, obviously super excited about starting their business and have no idea what it's going to take to be successful. So I lay out a roadmap for them, and I tell them, and one of the things I always key in on is to become a specialist. So in the real estate content, I always say become, a geographic specialist or a lifestyle specialist. And it really is very similar when it comes to your video content strategy. You need to really figure out. So if you have a business, you're trying to sell something. Let's take. Who do we have in the audience again? Give me another.
Travel advisor. Let's do
travel advisor.
Corinda is a travel advisor. Mhm.
Perfect. So, what are the questions that a typical consumer of travel is going to have? So, you're definitely going to know what people are always asking you. I would encourage everyone on this call to jot down those things people are always asking you, that are repeatable questions that you get all the time that you have to answer, and they're top of mind questions for most people that are inquiring about what you do. And so, that could easily be off the top of your head, I'm sure, a list of 10 to 12
Oh yeah.
things. And right there is your starting point for your video content. Because what that does is not only does it demonstrate that you know exactly what you're talking about, you know, maybe let's go back to the travel. What should I be thinking about when I'm going to travel to Europe?
Hmm.
What are the top three things I should be thinking about? What are the top three things I should be worried about or prepared for? These kinds of things. Top threes, top fives, those kinds of short videos do really well. And so those are very helpful. They're very practical, and really solves their problem. And so you should be in the business of solving their problem, regardless of what business you're in. You should be in the business of solving the problem of the person you're trying to serve. And
Yeah.
so the travel, there's a lot of opportunity inside of travel to,
Oh
to
yeah.
really create content that's going to serve that customer.
Or even why should you book with a travel agent versus booking on your own? That could probably stir up a little bit of controversy, which might be good in a good way, not being controversial in a bad way, but just things that get people thinking, or stopping. Now,
Here's
earlier
a
we
here's a
talked.
YouTube title: Expedia versus me,
Right.
and then
There
there's
you
your
go.
face,
Corinda, I hope you're
right?
taking notes here. These are
Yeah,
your video
Expedia
titles.
versus me, and then the face of you, Corinda, on the one side. And I was like, who's this person? That's what's going
Yeah.
to elicit. It's going to elicit like, well, Expedia is the giant, but why should I use Corinda?
Yeah.
That's curious. Let me click on that.
Yeah. Now, what about earlier? We were talking about the interplay between the long form and the short form. If you were to create videos like that for a travel agent, should you start with the short form or the long form?
My recommendation for the clients that I serve is the way we usually do it, and it's also because they're busier and we've got a lot of content to create. Is we typically the strategy we use is we create the long form first,
Okay.
and because that long form it serves you to be able to cut up a lot of excerpts out of it. So a typical nice long form that's 20-30 minutes, you're going to be able to get at least half a dozen to 10 shorts,
Mm.
vertical content pieces of content out of that. And again, this is getting a little bit more in the weeds, but we also script these out, and so
Mm.
that the process of how we record it, we make it so that there's some bite-sized chunks in there that can be easily pulled out that on their own are valuable pieces of content. And so that's another strategy that we use too. But for someone who's getting started, just do both. Do
Mhm.
both. I mean, you're just getting started. So feel the effort of going through creating short form versus standalone short form versus excerpts from long form, if that
Yeah,
makes
and
sense.
yeah, because and some people might prefer doing short form or long form. Like I love doing the short form videos where I can just pull out my phone, do a video, I edit it in 10 minutes, and it's not doesn't look great, but it's quick and easy, and I can do that every day. Versus I put a lot of work into one video a week for a YouTube channel, and it's a lot of work. But some people love that because
You
they
make a
time.
really good point there. You
Yeah,
make a really good point, and it's important to pause here because
sure.
there's 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 value in the professional looking setup. Like right here in the Florida podcast studio, I have three podcast setups, one across here. I've got a vertical setup over here. And in the other room down the hall, I've got another studio. And they're all set up for, they're beautiful, they're professional lighting,
Mhm.
there's three cameras in each one, but that's not the guarantee that the content is going to become viral or it's
Right.
going to be the best piece of
Mhm.
content. You can shoot something beautiful with great audio and you're just not great on camera or you're not saying anything meaningful.
Yeah.
And that, but then you've got like to your point, you could be out on the street and you're shooting, you're in the moment, something's happening and you're like, hey, this would be insightful for my audience. I'm going to shoot this. That can go incredibly viral and can do really well for you. And then there's people that's all they do and they're incredibly successful. So the professional look and sound versus what would be considered amateur or impromptu, um, they both work, and they both work really well.
Yeah, and that's something that I would love to dig into because you have such a professional setup now, and like the video you shared in our Port St. Lucie Business Club group earlier today, and the previous videos, they look so professional. that's great, but I could see where it could discourage some people who are trying to
Yeah.
start because they're like, oh, I don't have a setup like Eddie. I'm never going to be that good on screen. So why even bother? Tell us a little bit about like where you started in video, like how you got from just starting to where you are now in terms of the quality of production and being just well spoken on screen, which is a skill that has to be acquired.
I was one, and I'm sure there's many that are probably, and please raise your hand in the comments if this is you. I was absolutely panic stricken by speaking in public. Absolutely. I could not do it. I wouldn't be able to do it. There's no way I would be able to do it. The idea of me speaking on stage, which of course I have done several times now, was something that was just not fathomable, right? But it's practice.
Yeah.
It's all it is. It's practice. And so, what was my journey? My journey is I started to go to YouTube University, like all of us have available to us, right? And how do I do this? How do I set up my phone? What software do I need? What tripod should I use? Where should I place that light? Do I need a microphone? Do I not need a microphone? And little by little, and again, I don't know, I think I told you the story, Nicholas, but when I started the podcast studio, it was only for me. It
Mm.
wasn't even a business. I didn't label it the Florida Podcast Studio until later when my close circle of friends would come through and be like, Eddie, this,
You got to share this.
yeah, you got to, this doesn't exist anywhere. I'm like, yeah, but it's really just my man cave. It was my man cave. And so, but it was my place to hone. To your question, is my place to hone the skill. So I made the investment of taking time, and yes, I was doing my real estate business out of
Mhm.
here and selling and transacting still back when I first started this. I don't really do that anymore, but they worked in tandem at the time, right? And it was a nice little kind of move from one to another. But this is just practice, and the more you do it. But here's the secret, and I'm going to leave you with this, and we'll get into some of the specifics here in a minute. But there isn't much to this.
Mm.
So like right now, I have a main light that's hovering above me. I've got a light here on an angle to my face. I've got a microphone, which I'm not using right now because I'm using my AirPods, but that's it. I mean, it's a good microphone. Your iPhone is
Mhm.
more than sufficient, or your Android device, whatever you've got, more than sufficient, especially nowadays. The key is the lighting and the microphones, and
Yeah.
that's really what does it. And it's not much. I shoot some really nice content on my kitchen island, my kitchen,
Yeah.
sitting in my kitchen. And I just place things a certain way and they look nice.
Yeah. And I think you said earlier, you have to have something to say. I would say that trumps everything. I've seen so many videos go viral that have terrible lighting, terrible audio, but there's a really important message there. You're teaching someone something, you're educating them, you're entertaining them. Maybe you're doing
Yeah.
a little bit of all three of those. You have an interesting hook at the beginning of the video. That's the key. You don't want to just get up here and start talking to them. This is all about my business. And let me tell you about me, me, me. People hate that, right?
You are absolutely, that's leading into one of the points that I would have shared in terms of, who are we talking to
Mhm.
and this is something that I really firmly believe most of you should really kind of pay attention, and in the replay, rewind it, because this is a really important one. Listen carefully. When you design your content, and you should be thinking about 80% value driven and 20% ask. That's it. Do not end every video with call me today to help you buy a
Mhm.
house, call me today to fix your plumbing. Do not do that. Give value, give solutions to the point where almost it hurts, where you feel like you're almost giving way too much. Because the reality is, regardless of what you're doing, the vast majority of people will be more apt to pay for your service,
Mhm.
right? Even though they could do it. Yeah, like right now we're dealing with this real estate thing where
Yeah.
the commissions, right? This whole commission thing has changed completely on its end. And a lot of people are thinking, well, I can sell yeah, you could have always sold your house on your own, always. But why do people still use a professional? Well, because there's a level of experience there,
Mhm.
right? And so it's the same with this. You don't want to sell. You want to give a lot of value up first when you're creating your content, and you want to really be very careful as to how you do it. Now, there's ways to do it, and probably good for another video or another meeting together. But the lead generation that you're creating then from your content. What are you doing with all those people that are watching your video?
Yeah.
What journey do you want to lead them on to get them to transact whatever you're trying to get them to transact?
Yeah, that can be a whole nother live stream down the road. After you build that audience and you start creating content and that comes naturally to you, then you got to
Yeah.
figure out, where do those people go? How do you get them into your funnel? That might be a term people are familiar with. That's a whole nother topic. We could spend hours on that. So,
Yeah.
that's good though that we mentioned it to try to put all the pieces together. I want to check the comments real quick. Daryl has a question here. Let's bring this question up. Thoughts on those apps that will populate your script message for you on the phone? Would you recommend those to help you kind of stay on topic? So, Daryl, I think you're talking about like the AI tools these days that'll create the scripts for you, give you ideas. Eddie, what do you think about that?
I am deep in AI. We are leveraging it in our companies for not only the services we provide our clients, but we actually even have an AI-driven company called
Oh,
mylistinggenie.com,
wow.
and that is for real estate agents, and it creates their content for them. So it's not they're not using the AI. We're using the we're leveraging the AI to create content, but there are a lot of great apps out there that you can
Mhm.
use. Obviously, OpenAI's
Yeah,
ChatGPT is
ChatGPT. Mhm.
still the number one place, and even though I look into, there's a couple other ones that are coming out, but that's still by far the leader. And I would encourage anyone on this call as well to spend the time to invest some time in learning how it works, even if you don't use it for your business, because it's something that's not going away. I really firmly believe it's like the invention of the internet and lights, electricity, all that. That's how powerful it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us as people of this earth to understand it and how it's going to impact us, whether we leverage it for business or not. But there's a lot of great tools. ChatGPT really does a lot for you, so you can ask it anything, and you can get it to give you the content that you want. But more specifically, could you read into his question a little bit more again, please?
Yeah, thoughts on those apps that will populate your script and message for you on the phone? Would you recommend those to help you kind of stay on topic, to stay on the topic that you want to cover?
On your phone, I mean, in terms of, does it say like in terms of sending it via SMS, like a text
Maybe,
message?
Daryl, are you talking about like I know there's a lot of like teleprompter apps that'll not only create the script for you, but you can actually film while looking at the text on your screen. Is that what you're referring to? See if we get a answer. I know there's a little bit of a delay here, but yeah, I'm a big fan of ChatGPT. I know there are a lot of other apps that are purpose built specifically for video content creation, but I say, I would just go to the source, which is ChatGPT. It's cheap. You can it's free, or you can pay for the $20 plan, and you can get a lot of good ideas.
So let me give you
Yes,
my
teleprompter. He
quick
is
little
talking about.
suite.
Yeah,
Teleprompting?
yeah,
Yeah, perfect.
telepromptering. So,
So there's some great teleprompter apps.
mhm.
There, I actually have right here to the right of me, and in the other studio too, a real teleprompter where you
Mm,
just sit your phone down, and behind there is a real camera, like
mm,
DSLR, that's recording. It would record. So it's a typical teleprompter where just reflecting what's on your screen from your phone. That's one. I think it's referring to the ones that are like an app on your phone.
yep,
So
on
it's
your phone.
reading, right, which
Yeah.
is great. Those are really very helpful. The one I use that I like is the Captions app.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one. And then I think between Captions app and CapCut for editing your
Hmm.
videos, I know we're kind of going a little bit different direction, but those are two really kind of
I use
pillar
both of
pieces,
those. Yeah.
yeah, for creating content.
Yeah, CapCut is great for editing, and Captions, it's just called Captions, is a great app for putting caption text on your videos. And I believe I haven't even used like the AI features in it yet.
It does, yeah. It
Mm,
actually will translate
gee.
it'll your voice into another language.
Oh wow. These AI tools are taking over. Looks like we have
It's
another
great.
question from Rafa, and Rafa said the key is understanding you're trying to build a relationship with your audience. Absolutely, that's so important. You're not trying to just sell; you're trying to really build that connection.
A
Uh,
100%.
Rafa says, "What about the analytics that are valuable to measure your engagement and segmentation? Which tools do you use for analytics?"
Depending on the platform, but for most of the time, what I use the platform specific analytics. So whatever where if I'm on YouTube, if I'm on Instagram, whatever it is, that's really where I'm, because all of the platforms are so different. And that was kind of one of the topics maybe we were going to touch on is that when we create this content, you need to really understand the platform you're creating it
Mhm.
for. Yes, you can take the same video and dump it on all the different social media platforms. Nothing wrong with that, but really the secret sauce, the specialties come from being able to understand the nuances of each one. Like who's typically on that platform? What are they intending to gain by being on that platform? Are they trying to be entertained like TikTok, or are they more business minded in the middle of the day on LinkedIn? So the piece of content is going to hit differently depending on the platform. But each platform does have its own analytics, and I would
Mhm.
say creating specific content for that platform and keeping an eye on the analytics and reading what it's telling you in terms of its engagement. With YouTube, I love to see how long people are watching a video and when they drop off, because you can see that, right? When someone just clicks away. And then you just got to be a student of that and continue to iterate and change it up until you find it. But I would leave this, I would leave it with this is don't chase the analytics as much.
Yeah.
Do your thing, talk the way you want to talk. You will find your audience. I promise you, you will find your audience. And you will find your audience the more you spend time on these platforms and the more you become comfortable with being you and getting on camera and doing your message.
Yeah, as Gary Vaynerchuk would say, you got to get those reps in. You got to,
Yeah.
do those 100 bad videos there, and don't look at the analytics for your first 100 videos. It literally takes that type of mindset, and then it's going to start paying off because you really get into it. But the data is there, and so that brings us into this topic of platforms, which I know we wanted to cover. I would love to just get your sort of lay of the land of all the different platforms that are out there. How should someone figure out where to spend most of their time and energy?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think in the beginning you do want to put everything out there on all the
Mhm.
platforms if you can,
Okay.
just to go through the motions of using the platforms and creating the content and putting it out there and using the onboard tools for each one of those platforms, which are a little bit different, right? And understanding and also as you're doing this, also being very much a consumer of content and seeing what's really doing well. So I would say do some research in terms of whatever business you're in. Do the hashtag research, keyword research on those platforms. See what comes up, right? See if. Give me another business. I'm sorry, that was in the group.
Yeah, so Danny is a financial advisor.
Perfect, perfect. Financial advice, investments, personal finance, finance tips. Do all those search. See what content is really popping. I'm not afraid to emulate other people. So if I see that a piece of content is really timely, very helpful, people are engaging with it, I'm going to use ChatGPT.
Mhm.
I'm going to give it the content of that video, and I'm going to tell it to massage it and change it up, and maybe generate a new script for me. Or I just go off the cuff because I'm in that business and I know
Right.
what
You
to
know it.
say
Yeah.
exactly how you would know it, so it would come off naturally. But either one of those would work. But you know, I would say definitely mimic some of the without copying, mimic some of the other things that are working to see. Um, because again, this all goes back to you have to put in the reps. You're
Yeah.
not really going to know until you try all these different things. And so, if the person again on LinkedIn is going to be a lot more business minded, probably in the middle of the day, a person at TikTok could be all hours of the day, and it's probably there to be entertained, right? So, what is your content about? More entertainment, which is fine, or is it more educational, business minded? There are some clients that I have that I consult that we only focus on YouTube and LinkedIn
Yeah.
because that's where those platforms,
Mhm.
that's what their content should live. We're not a TikTok business or a company, right? For them.
Yeah,
So
but
it's important to understand that.
I like that you also said you should initially at least go everywhere and try to put your content out there everywhere just to sort of get a feel for it. I know I've spent a lot of time on all the major platforms, and I think the three that most people are thinking about when it comes to video is TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. My personal take, just my 30-second quick take on this, is TikTok is where you have the most opportunity right now to go viral, if that's
Hmm.
what you're looking to do, but it's low impact. Like, I've had videos get hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok, but what did that actually turn into? Nothing, because it's an international audience. It's not local. It's not a business audience, but it's easy to go viral there, in my opinion. The second place, Instagram, I think, is where it's the most competitive because everyone wants to be on Instagram. And I think it's the most beneficial if you're a local business, because that to me is where local businesses are spending most of their time. So if you want to build your local network, that's where I've been spending a lot of time lately because I want to build the Port St. Lucie Business Club. So I'm
Sure.
connecting with local businesses. And then YouTube Shorts, I think, is the one that's, in my opinion, has the most opportunity because it's backed by Google. They own YouTube. They're dumping billions of dollars into it. And because it's not as competitive as Instagram or TikTok, you have more of an opportunity, but it also doesn't have as much going on right now because it doesn't have the same virality as TikTok and Instagram. But if you play the long game and you get in early with YouTube Shorts, if I was going to bet, I would say 3 years from now, I would bet that YouTube Shorts is going to be the best place to be when it comes to video, well, short form and long form. Obviously, they already own long form, but I guess we're mostly talking about short form here. Based on that, what is your take on that with those 3 platforms?
Yeah, no, I'm right in line with what you're saying, 100%. As a matter of fact, the another very important nuance to that is that, the Instagram, TikTok, those platforms are more algorithm driven,
Mhm.
and like
Yeah,
YouTube Shorts is more search based,
good
so
point. Yeah.
intent based.
Mhm.
So when someone's going to YouTube, they're not going to YouTube just to get flooded with a bunch of cat videos like you would maybe on TikTok, right? You're actually probably going there to search something. How do I? Where do I find?
Yep.
How do I fix this? What's the best thing to do for that, right? That's what people do on YouTube. So again, that goes back to what I was saying. It's important to understand what platform we're using and what we're trying to do on that platform, and then serve up the content that's going to be most effective on that
Mhm.
platform. But you're absolutely right. In Instagram, it's ultra competitive.
It is.
Uh,
Yeah.
TikTok, yeah, you can get some awareness. And again, it all depends on what your business is and what you're trying to accomplish. But those are the one. And for LinkedIn specifically too, having one of the strategies we use really well for bigger businesses is that, yeah, we're not trying to get millions of views when I'm talking about my client who sells a specific business insurance, which I have. And if I told you what it was, you'd be like, what is that? Because no, most people have never heard of this type of insurance, but it's a business insurance that exists. And yeah, our audience is going to be so much smaller. So then the tactic is a little bit different, right? So now we're engaging in groups that are talking about this, and now we're able to do more hand-to-hand combat, right? As opposed to trying to reach 10 million people on TikTok. So it
Yeah.
just depends on the platform.
And so, yeah, what about LinkedIn? Because I've never really done any video on LinkedIn. Is that popular? Is it good? Is it a place to spend time, especially for folks like Rafa and Danny who are in the B2B space?
100%, I would recommend for them to be more LinkedIn heavy,
Okay.
and also creating relationships there. One of the greatest, I'll give you this little tidbit. One of the greatest tactics that we've used that we've seen real good success with is engaging on other people's posts on LinkedIn. So you search up other people that are in your business that are doing something that are in conversation. You get into that conversation and you leave your 2 cents of knowledge and wisdom
Mhm.
and real thought, not just, hey, thumbs up or cool, that's great, I agree, but leave your industry knowledge with on that comment. And you'd be surprised how many people then re-engage with you and start to follow you. And those are the people you want, because when you're talking about
Yeah.
business, you want those people that are looking to possibly do some business with you, transact with you. And that's a great educational space. And so if you're constantly educating not only in the content you're uploading, so to your question, yes, video content loaded up there, infographics do really well,
Mm.
long form write up blog style does really well. So if you're not a video person and LinkedIn is going to be something that you think you is good for your business, writing a really well thought out 2, 3, 4 paragraphs goes really, really well on LinkedIn.
Man, another place to spend time. I can hear the questions and comments already of, "Oh, how am I gonna keep up with this? I actually have to do my job."
Yes.
What do you think about the idea of just sharing content everywhere, but really focusing in on maybe 1 or 2 platforms to do the deep engagement where you're actually commenting and liking and following others? Because it's impossible to do that on 6 platforms. So you could
Listen,
still
listen,
share
buddy.
everywhere, but just engage on a few.
Yeah. I mean, you and I both know. I mean, we're in it. This,
Mhm.
it's a full-time job for a
Yeah,
small
it could
army.
be.
For a
Yeah.
small army, it
Yeah.
really is to do it at a high level, right?
Mhm.
And so it's important that we bring this down to the single person entrepreneur, one owner company kind of situation or small group where you don't have an assigned person to do
Mhm.
that. So yes, I would absolutely first start with who is your audience, kind of we talked about, what platform, 1 or 2,
Mhm.
are the ones that they're most likely spending their time on. Research the content that is associated with that industry and engage in those
Yeah.
conversations. Engage in those conversations. Yeah.
Just on 1 or 2. Awesome.
Yeah. Just one or two. Yeah.
I see we have a question from Danny here. How would you verbalize a call to action? Do you post a question? So I guess just, yeah, get into calls to action. I know you said this is not something you should do on every video, obviously, but when the time arises where you should have a call to action in your video, how do you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, I always there's a couple of different approaches that I really like. Is one is to leave something of value, right? Encourage them to follow up with you to give them something of value, whether it's a meaningful checklist or a way to get started. Something that you really that does have value, not just a throwaway or a giveaway, right? Something that you really spent some time crafting, whether it's a PDF or a video that's maybe locked away that goes in further depth, that's maybe an hour and a half going in deep into the subject, something like that. Encourage them to visit, a landing page that you may have set up. It's relatively easy now to create landing pages, whether it's on your website or through your CRM that you may manage, where you manage all your contacts. A lot of them already offer those types of landing pages that you can create. So you can leave that link at the bottom of your video or your message, say follow up here if you want some more information. They can click on that link, they can land on that page, submit their information, and then you can reach out. That's a great way to re-engage, to be able to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, yeah, and you can build an email list. Like again, this could be a whole nother topic of how can you work calls to action into your videos, and then how can you create a marketing funnel off of that and build a list and build an audience outside of the video platforms. Um, Daryl has some interesting points here. LinkedIn, obviously, yeah, Daryl, LinkedIn is great for you as a notary. That's where businesses are hanging out. You also mentioned Alignable. Alignable, for anyone who's not aware, is like it's a network that's been around for a long time. It's very local centric. Do they even have video, Daryl? Let me know if you've seen video on there, because I've not spent that much time on Alignable, but maybe there's an opportunity there. If a lot of people are not doing video on Alignable and you are, that's an easy way for you to stand out. You also mentioned Big View. I think Danny mentioned Big View, which is a teleprompter app, a fantastic tool. They used to have a lifetime deal, I believe, on AppSumo. If anyone's not aware of AppSumo, check them out. It's where you can buy lifetime deals for software. It's really not affiliated with them. It's just a cool place to check out tools that are related to content creation and marketing and that type of stuff. But yeah, so you've seen a mix of video and photos on Alignable. So maybe that's an opportunity, right? Find the place where a lot of people are not doing video, like LinkedIn maybe, and go all in on that. That way you can stand out, right, Eddie?
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. We also have to remember that the initial goal that people think is like, oh man, I got to reach 10,000 people
Yeah.
or 100,000 people, or otherwise it's a flop, or I have to have 1 million subscribers, otherwise my channel is a flop.
Mhm.
That is not the case, especially if we reel it back into YouTube specifically. They're not focused on subscribers. You're focused on view count and view duration and people engaging. So
Yeah.
I don't have to subscribe to. I may have liked that video I saw yesterday, and there's one that I liked about off-grid, camping,
Yeah.
camping in the middle of nowhere with nothing. And what does YouTube do? Well, it saw that you saw the whole thing, and when I get home tonight and I fire up the TV, it's probably going to suggest some new ones for me,
Mhm.
right? And I didn't subscribe to the channel, and so it knows what you want, and so if you're consuming that content, it's going to continue to come up. But where were we going with that?
The different tools, the different I think we were covering a lot of different things. My comment
Yeah.
was a little bit all over the place. I do know Rafa is asking a question about the platform I just mentioned, which is called AppSumo. It's APP Sumo, like a sumo wrestler.com. And yeah, it's for all different types of software for businesses. I've bought so much stuff from AppSumo. I don't even want to mention how much I've spent with them over the years. But it's a really good place. I remember buying a lifetime deal to Big View a couple of years ago, the teleprompter app. So definitely check out AppSumo. Uh, I should be getting paid for that, but I'm not.
Well,
uh,
we were talking about viewers, and not to get
yes.
lost in the amount of viewers that you have, right? Because this was my point in
Oh,
bringing that up,
that's
is
important.
that
Yeah.
yeah, in that, don't get lost in that in terms of the vanity metrics, right? And the idea that if I'm not reaching 10,000 people, that my video stinks, and it's not the case. I'm sure that all of you, if I went down the row of people that are attending right now and asked, you know, how many people, how many new customers would you need every single year to really make an impact on your business?
Yeah.
And I think you would all be really surprised at how relatively low that number
Hmm.
is. And you're reaching those people by this video. That's why we're doing this today. Is that the power and the reach of video is so incredibly impactful that it will absolutely transform your business
It
when you
will.
start doing it really well. It just does, because you just reach so many people. Like right now, I don't know how many people are on the call, but I know we had like 50 plus that were
Yeah, we have about
interested in.
20 people live, and yeah, we're gonna have more watch it after the fact.
Exactly right. So, what does it take to get 20 people into a room, right?
Yeah.
And have a meaningful conversation where you're actually able to give value? That's not easy. but technology allows us to do it. So yeah, you absolutely need to leverage it.
I see Danny has a question here. And yeah, so we're going to go for a few more minutes here. I know we try to keep these around 45 minutes. So if anyone has any final questions, put them in the chat. Danny says, what are some things to avoid while creating content? Yeah, we've been talking a lot about what to do. What should you not do, Eddie?
Don't overthink it. Your first ones are going to stink. So it's okay. If you've never done it before, it's perfectly fine. Um, Things to avoid is obviously, making sure that you don't get too long-winded. I would say in order to avoid that, script out what your thoughts are before you get on camera, even if you're not a teleprompter person, which is fine. You don't have to run teleprompters. I know we talked about teleprompters, but depending on who you are, I have a client that doesn't like teleprompters, and he's more into an outline kind of guy, right? So we hang this outline just off camera, and he just glances over at it, and he takes his time and and records that way, and then we edit it so that it looks seamless, right? So it doesn't look like he's pausing or anything like that. Really, don't be afraid to get started, because this is going to lead into kind of maybe one of our last things here, Nicholas, is the equipment that you need. Is just get started. There really isn't much that you need. The phone that you carry in your back pocket is more than sufficient. It's what I'm using right now to stream this. I'm sure it looks pretty good.
It looks great.
What's making the most impact is the lighting. Proper lighting and aligning it on your face properly is. And this is important. I'll just touch this real quick. Is one of the efforts that we've got going on right now is a new group called Midlife Creator. And so that group is specifically for people of a certain age. I'm 50. I turned 50 already, and so anyone kind of 40 to 60 that are still very much in their business, trying to grow their business, are not trying to leave anywhere anytime soon, and want to still be very relevant. We help them create things that are, or instruct them so that they can be very prominent and effective in today's, because we didn't grow up with this, right? And so there's a different learning curve there. And there's a lot of people that are just, how do I look terrible on camera? What am I supposed to do or say? Or I sound terrible? You don't. Everybody knows what you sound like. We hear you all the time. We see you all the time. Yes, there's some things you can do with lighting so that you may feel like you look like a little better. But it's this phone. It's the couple of lights that I have here. Again, you don't even need lights. You need your phone and good window light. Window light at a 45-degree angle is perfectly sufficient. You'll see it makes you look beautiful. And a microphone, or just this. I've got my earpods on. That's all you need.
Fantastic quality from AirPods.
That's it. I mean, so then later you start to get into more equipment, but it's only because you want to level up a bit.
Don't let it stop you. That's the thing.
It should not let you get. No, not at all.
That's the takeaway here. I see we have a question from Daryl. We'll just take a few more questions, then we'll wrap up. So how do you think or come up with your content without feeling like you're covering the same topic or repeating the same message over and over? That's a good question. What do you think, Eddie?
That's a great piece. That's a great piece. Great question, because it depends on a platform you are on, but you'll find that you will repeat yourself, and that's okay.
That is okay,
because the way the algorithm works is it's never presenting the same pieces of content for the same person. It's not like, oh, I see Nicholas saying the same. I don't get every single one of Nicholas's posts or his videos, and he doesn't get mine. It's just the way it works. When you're on a platform like YouTube, you do want to recreate. I'd like to try to keep things out there if it's exactly the same type of content, and it's a content that we call evergreen, that has a long shelf life, that could sit out there for a year and still be relevant. We'd probably take it off the shelf after about a year. But I mean, you shouldn't worry about it. As a matter of fact, I would encourage you to iterate, to try it a little bit differently, say it a little bit differently, be in a different location. It's going to hit the right person at the right time. So just because you post it today may not reach that person. They may not hear it because they don't need to hear it. But you'll reach them one day, and it'll be very effective and impactful for them.
It's a very noisy world. We think that all of our messages are getting out in front of our entire audience, but they're not. And people, it's almost like you want to repeat yourself. And I know this is what Gary Vaynerchuk would probably say. I think I've heard him say that this to a similar question is, you want to repeat yourself. You want to become known for that one thing or those two things. So Daryl, in your case, I would literally talk about being a notary and what is a notary do, and what's the difference between online notary and in-person notary, and what should you avoid doing when you're a notary? Or, you can take that one topic and just make so many different iterations of it, and people are not going to hear all of it because it's a noisy place, it's a noisy world. So I wouldn't worry about that too much.
To Nicholas's point, you want to repeat yourself because you want to be what is referred to as the key person of influence. You want to be the one that's known for that thing. So yes, you're going to repeat yourself, and that's okay. Just make slight, context changes, but that's it. But yeah, you do your thing, and that's the way it should be.
That's awesome. Well, let's wrap up. So before we go, I would love you to give us some final words, and then tell us anything you're working on, anything you'd like our listeners to check out next.
Well, my final words are just, first of all, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Hopefully this has been helpful. You can certainly reach out to me. I'm easy to get a hold of. Send me a message. Ask me what you want. I'm happy to connect with you. Thank you again, Nicholas, for putting this on. I hope this again was helpful for everybody.
Absolutely.
You got to just get started. You just have to record. You start pressing record. It's not going to be perfect. You've got me to reach out and ask questions. So I'm just a message away. Pick my brain, but just get started on your own. It really can be a very transformative marketing effort in your business, 100%. I'm here at the Florida Podcast Studio. It's really kind of easy to find as well. It's just floridapodcast.studio. Floridapodcast.studio. Studio is the domain, not a .com. So it's floridapodcast.studio. And I'm just here in South Stewart. The studio is here. So if you ever want to reach out to me and say, hey, Eddie, can I come by for a tour? Can I pick your brain on this? You're more than welcome to come by and do that. And we can certainly meet.
Fantastic. We'll put those links in the chat. And then I encourage everyone to connect with you on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on wherever you are. And then also make sure to check out the events that we have coming up at the Port St. Lucie Business Club. We'll put those links in the chat as well. We have an event.
And let me leave you this one.
Let me leave
you with this one last story.
Please do. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but the reason we're all here today is because I sent Nicholas a video.
Yes.
So the only reason why I was invited to do this was because I put a video together. So to reframe the impact of what was done.
That's true.
I took a moment to record a video. I sent a personal message to Nicholas.
Mm-hmm.
I added value to what Nicholas was trying to do. He saw that. He said, "This guy knows what he's talking about." Right? I'm sure
it wasn't a sales pitch. Mouth. You were honestly just trying to share information.
100%, and that landed well. And so that's what I encourage all of you to do is to work from that framework.
Yeah.
And you'll see magical things happen. Now I'm here and I'm adding value to all of you. What a win. That's a win.
Full circle. That's a great way to end this. So Eddie, thank you so much for joining us. This was amazing. There's so many points. I'm going to go back and listen to the recording and take some more notes. And I encourage everyone to join our Facebook group if you're not already in our group. The link is in the chat. And also come out to our in-person networking event. If you're in the Treasure Coast, it's going to be on March 26th at 6:30 p.m. at St. Lucie Lanes in Port St. Lucie. Last time we had 95 people there. It's going to be an awesome event. So RSVP with the link in the chat. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next time.